My wife and her sisters fired me when they took over my father-in-law's company. They didn't know there was a clause in my contract that protected me. When I dropped the bomb, they started begging, but it was too late for them. Hello. Thank you for your continuous support. This means a lot to us. If you enjoy the stories we share, kindly subscribe to this channel. It will be great if you can leave a comment on which city you are watching from. We might just give you a shout out in our next story. Today's special shout out goes to Julie Adams from Cape Town, South Africa. We are glad you enjoy our stories. Now let's dive into the details of today's story. I'd never forget the way Ellen looked at me that day, like I was a loose thread she'd finally snipped. It was a Tuesday, and I sat at the head of the Harper Industries boardroom table, expecting a routine update on the quarter's numbers. Instead, my wife and her sisters ambushed me. Ellen, Claire, and Sophie, all in their pressed suits, stared me down like I was a stranger, not the guy who dragged their father's company into the black. 10 years I'd given them. 10 years of late nights, handshake deals, and turning a dusty factory into a profit machine. And there they were, about to gut me. Ellen spoke first, her voice clipped, like she'd rehearsed it. Daniel, we've decided to take the company in a new direction. We're terminating your position as COO, effective immediately. She slid a thin envelope across the table. My walking papers, I guessed. Claire fidgeted with her pen, eyes on the floor. Sophie just nodded, her lips tight. They'd planned this, the three of them, behind my back. My own wife hadn't even warned me. I opened my mouth to argue, but the word stuck. Why, was all I managed. Ellen leaned forward, her chin high. It's time the family took full control. Dad's gone, and we need to protect his legacy. Legacy. Like I hadn't been part of it. Like I hadn't been the one George Harper trusted to keep the lights on. I remembered him years back, his hand heavy on my shoulder after I'd revamped the supply chain. You're the future of this place, Daniel, he'd said, his grin wide. Don't let anyone tell you different. Now he was 6 months in the ground, and his daughters were rewriting history. I didn't fight them then. I couldn't. My chest felt like it had been hollowed out, and all I could do was grab that envelope and walk. The hallway stretched forever past the offices I'd redesigned, the break room where I'd eaten cold pizza with the crew. My keys jangled too loud in my hand as I hit the parking lot, climbed into my truck, and drove home. Home. Funny word for a place that didn't feel like mine anymore. Ellen was already there when I walked in, perched on the couch with a glass of wine, flipping through her phone like it was any other day. I dropped the envelope on the coffee table, the thud loud enough to make her look up. You could have told me, I said, my voice low, frayed. She shrugged, like it was nothing. It's just business, Daniel. You'll find something else. Just business. 10 years of marriage, 15 of knowing her, and she'd iced me out with 3 words. I waited for her to say more, to soften it, but she didn't. She just sipped her wine and went back to her screen. I should have yelled, should have demanded answers, but I was too tired, too stunned. Instead, I went upstairs, pulled my old contract from the safe, something George had insisted I keep, and flipped through it. That's when I saw it, the clause. Buried in the fine print, a gift from a dead man. If terminated without cause, I'd receive my full salary for 5 years. 5 years. George had slipped it in there, quiet as a shadow, and I'd never noticed. I sat on the edge of the bed, staring at those words, feeling a flicker of something, relief, maybe, or defiance. They didn't know. Ellen and her sisters had no idea what they'd triggered. I didn't tell them. Not yet. I needed to think, to breathe. So I grabbed a duffel bag, stuffed it with clothes, my laptop, a few essentials. Ellen didn't look up as I came downstairs, didn't ask where I was going when I said, I'll be back for the rest later. The door clicked shut behind me, and I drove, anywhere, nowhere, until I found a cheap motel off the highway. I checked in, tossed my bag on the lumpy bed, and sat there in the dark, the contract still clutched in my hand. That night, I replayed it all, Ellen's cold stare, Claire's guilt, Sophie's silence. I trusted them, not just as family but as partners. I built Harper Industries with George, brick by brick, and they'd torn me out like I was nothing. But that clause, it was George's voice from beyond, telling me I wasn't done. They'd made their move, thinking they'd won. They didn't know I had an ace they couldn't touch. I lay back, staring at the stained ceiling, my mind racing. I could fight them, drag this into court, make them bleed for it. Or I could walk away, let that clause be my quiet revenge. I didn't know what I'd do, not yet. But one thing was clear, they'd underestimated me. Ellen thought she'd cut me loose, that I'd crumble. She didn't see the man George had seen, the one who'd built their empire, the one who'd survived this. They'd lit the match. Now I'd decide what burned. 3 months after they fired me, I was still waking up to the hum of that motel AC unit, the kind that rattled like it was about to quit. I'd moved into a small apartment by then, a one-bedroom with peeling paint and a view of a parking lot. But it was mine, free of Ellen's shadow. The severance checks hit my account every 2 weeks, steady as a heartbeat. 80 grand a year, untouchable, thanks to George's foresight. I didn't spend much, just rent, groceries, gas. The rest sat there, growing, a silent middle finger to the sisters who thought they'd left me broke. I hadn't spoken to Ellen since that night I walked out. Her voicemails piled up at first, short, sharp ones like, "We need to talk, Daniel," then longer rants about how I was overreacting. I deleted them without replying. The last one, a week back, had her voice cracking, saying, "You can't just disappear." Too late for that. She disappeared me first, right out of the company I'd built. Claire and Sophie hadn't reached out, probably too scared of Ellen to try. Fine by me. I didn't need their guilt. Meanwhile, Harper Industries was cracking. I heard whispers, old colleagues texting me on the sly, saying orders were down, clients bailing. Ellen had pushed some big cost-cutting plan, slashed the maintenance budget, and machines started breaking. Claire wanted to pivot to cheaper products. Sophie just nodded along to whatever Ellen barked. They didn't know what they were doing. Not really. George had taught me the guts of that place, how to read a balance sheet, charm a supplier, keep the line humming. The sisters? They'd coasted on his name and my work. Now the wheels were coming off. I wasn't sitting idle, though. A buddy from the industry, Mike, had hooked me up with a consulting gig at a smaller outfit, Ascendancy Solutions. They were hungry, scrappy, trying to claw their way into Harper's market. I started small, tweaking their shipping schedules, renegotiating a few contracts. It felt good, using my hands again, my brain. The owner, a wiry guy named Patel, clapped me on the back after my first month. "You're a damn wizard, Carter," he said. "Stick with us." I wasn't ready to commit, not yet, but it was a start, a lifeline. Back at Harper, the sisters finally noticed the payments. I wasn't there for it, but I pictured it clear as day, Ellen storming into the accountant's office, demanding to know why their books were bleeding. "What's this line item?" She'd snap, jabbing at the ledger. The guy probably stammered, showed her my contract, that 5-year clause George had buried like treasure. I bet her face went white, then red, fury swallowing her pride. She'd call it theft, betrayal, anything to dodge the truth. They'd screwed themselves. Claire and Sophie would have just stared, realizing too late what firing me had cost. That night, Ellen showed up at my door. I'd just gotten back from Ascendancy, a beer half open in my hand, when the knock came, hard, insistent. I opened it, and there she was, arms crossed, eyes blazing. "You're still taking our money," she said, like it was an accusation. I leaned against the frame, calm as I could manage. "It's not yours. It's George's gift." She flinched at his name, then barreled on. "We need you back, Daniel. The company's struggling. You know how to fix it." No apology, no regret, just a demand, like I owed her. I almost laughed. "You fired me, Ellen. You and your sisters. You don't get to rewrite that now." Her jaw tightened, and she stepped closer, voice dropping. "This isn't about pride. It's about survival. Come back, and we'll make it right. Better salary, more say." I saw the desperation then, the cracks in her armor. 3 months ago, she looked at me like I was nothing. Now she needed me, and it burned her to admit it. I took a sip of my beer, let the silence stretch. "I'm done fixing your messes," I said finally. "You wanted control. You've got it." Her eyes narrowed, but she didn't argue, just turned and walked away, heels clicking down the hall. I shut the door, my pulse steady. She thought I'd cave, run back to save her. She didn't know I was already building something else. That night, I sat on my lumpy couch, laptop open, running numbers for Ascendancy. Patel had hinted at a bigger role if I delivered, and I was starting to see it, a way out, a way up. Harper Industries was sinking, and I wasn't going down with it. Ellen's visit replayed in my head, her words clawing at me. She'd misjudged me, same as always. George hadn't. He'd seen what I could do, left me that clause to prove it. The sisters were unraveling, and I was just getting started. They'd feel it soon enough. 6 months after they fired me, I sat across from a lawyer named Harris, a guy with a cheap tie and a sharp mind. The divorce papers were stacked between us, crisp and final. "You sure about this, Carter?" he asked, tapping his pen. I nodded. She made her choice. I'm making mine. Ellen had gutted me once, firing me like I was dead weight. I wasn't giving her a second swing. Harris slid the papers over, and I signed, Daniel Carter, free man. It didn't feel like victory, not yet, but it was a door slamming shut. I'd mailed my wedding ring back to her the week before, no note. She didn't deserve one. The papers hit her at the office. I knew because my phone lit up an hour later. "You're divorcing me over this," she hissed through the line, her voice tight with rage. "You're throwing away everything we had." I let her rant, my thumb hovering over the end call button. "You threw it away, Ellen," I said, cutting her off. "When you sat there with your sisters and cut me out. Don't act surprised now." She sputtered, something about loyalty and family, but I hung up. She'd lost the right to lecture me the day she'd handed me that envelope. Word got around fast. By the next afternoon, Claire and Sophie tracked me down at a diner near my apartment. I was halfway through a burger when they slid into the booth across from me, both looking like they hadn't slept. Claire spoke first, her voice soft, nervous. "Daniel, we need you back. Things are bad, really bad." Sophie nodded, her fingers twisting a napkin. "Ellen's running it into the ground. We've lost 2 big contracts this month. Please, just hear us out." I set my burger down, wiped my hands, and leaned back. "You were there when she fired me. Both of you. What's changed?" Claire's eyes darted away, but Sophie met mine, desperate. "We didn't know it'd get this bad. She's pushing everyone too hard. Vendors, staff, us. We can't fix it without you." I saw it then, the cracks Ellen's pride had carved between them. They weren't a united front anymore. They were scared. I could have rubbed it in, told them they'd reap what they sowed. Instead, I kept it simple. "You made your choice that day. I've made mine. I'm not coming back." Claire's face fell, and Sophie's mouth opened like she'd argue. But I stood, tossed a 20 on the table, and walked out. They didn't follow. I didn't look back. Work was my anchor now. Ascendancy Solutions had me running point on a new project, streamlining their distribution network. I was good at it, better than I'd been at Harper in years. Patel, the owner, pulled me aside one day, his grin wide. "You're a partner if you want it, Carter. We're growing because of you." I didn't say yes right then. I needed to think, but it lit something in me. A future I could build, not just patch up. I was done being someone else's fix-it guy. That night, I dug through an old box I'd hauled from the house. Photos, papers, junk from a life I was shedding. That's when I found it. A note from George, tucked in my first contract. Scrawled in his blocky handwriting, it read, "You stayed when you could have left. That's worth more than money." I sat there, staring at it, the memory hitting me hard. Years back, a rival firm had offered me a fat paycheck, 6 figures, corner office. I turned it down, told George the first believed in Harper Industries. He'd added that clause after, a safety net I hadn't asked for. He'd seen my loyalty, banked on it. Ellen never had. The sisters were flailing without me. I heard it from Mike, who still had ears in their camp. Ellen had doubled down, firing half the sales team to cut fat, only to lose more clients. Claire and Sophie were pushing back now, but she wouldn't budge. The company was a house of cards, and every gust knocked it closer to collapse. I didn't gloat. I didn't have to. They'd built their own trap. I drove to the lawyer's office the next day, dropped off the signed papers. Harris shook my hand, said, "You're a free man now." I felt it, lighter, sharper, like I'd shed a skin I'd outgrown. Ellen could rage all she wanted. Claire and Sophie could beg. I wasn't their lifeline anymore. Ascendancy was humming, Patel's offer hanging in the air, and I was starting to see it, a chance to rise, not just recover. They'd pushed me out, thinking I'd break. They didn't know I was already rebuilding. And I wasn't done yet. 9 months after they fired me, Harper Industries was a ghost of itself. I didn't need to see the books to know. Mike kept me in the loop, texting me updates like a war correspondent. Ellen had run the place like a dictator, slashing costs until the machines broke down, firing anyone who pushed back. Clients jumped ship faster than she could blame them. Claire and Sophie were barely speaking to her, from what I heard. In the last big contract, a parts supplier we'd locked down years ago went to Ascendancy Solutions. My Ascendancy. Patel had slapped me on the back when we signed it, saying, "You're the real deal, Carter." I'd taken his partnership offer by then, and we were moving fast, eating Harper's lunch one deal at a time. I didn't gloat, not out loud. But every time I walked into Ascendancy's office, saw the team I'd built, I felt it, proof I didn't need Ellen or her sisters to stand tall. The severance checks still rolled in, George's quiet revenge ticking away, but I barely touched them. Ascendancy was paying me plenty, and I was saving the rest, planning something bigger. A new venture, maybe, or just a cushion for the life I was carving out. Either way, I was done living on their terms. The end came faster than I expected. Mike called one morning, voice low. "They're selling, Dan. Harper's done. Debt's piling up, no cash flow. Ellen's shopping it around, but no one's biting." I wasn't surprised. She torched every bridge George and I had built. I thanked him, hung up, and got back to work. I didn't have time to dwell. Ascendancy had a pitch that afternoon, and I was running point. But the news stuck with me, a weight I couldn't shake. That afternoon, Ellen showed up at my office. I was alone, going over numbers, when the door banged open. She stood there, hair pulled tight, eyes wild, like she hadn't slept in days. "We need to talk," she said, stepping in without asking. I didn't stand, just leaned back in my chair. "Go ahead." She paced, hands clenched. "The company's finished unless you step in. I'll sell it to you, cheap. Just take it, fix it. For Dad's sake." Her voice cracked on that last part, and for a second, I saw the Ellen I'd married scared, human. Then I remembered the boardroom, her cold stare, the envelope. I let her words hang there, the silence thick. "You're asking me to save it now?" I said, keeping my tone even. "After you fired me? After you and your sisters decided I wasn't family enough?" She stopped pacing, faced me. "That was a mistake, okay? We didn't know it had come to this. You're the only one who can turn it around." No apology, just a plea dressed up as pragmatism. Same old Ellen. I stood then, walked to the window, looked out at the city. "George built that company with trust," I said. "He trusted me when I stayed, when I turned down better offers. He saw what I could do. You didn't. You thought you could run it without me, and now it's dying. That's on you." She stepped closer, voice rising. "You're punishing us for one decision. This isn't about me, it's about Dad's legacy." I turned, met her eyes. "His legacy was us, Ellen. You tore that apart. I'm not cleaning up your mess." Her face twisted anger, shame. I couldn't tell. "You'll regret this," she snapped, but it sounded hollow. She stormed out, the door slamming behind her. I sat back down, hands steady. She'd expected me to fold, to play the hero. She didn't get it. I wasn't her savior. I was done being anyone's. That night, I drove to George's grave. It was late, the cemetery quiet, just me and the headstone. I hadn't been back since the funeral, too raw then, too busy now. I stood there, hands in my pockets, thinking about that note he'd left me. "You stayed when you could have left." I'd honored that, given him everything. His daughters hadn't. They'd taken his gift and trashed it, and now they wanted me to pick up the pieces. I couldn't. Not for them. I spoke to him, low, like he could hear. "I tried, George. I kept it going for you." They didn't. The words felt heavy, final. I wasn't mad anymore, just tired of carrying their weight. I'd built something new, something mine. Ascendancy was thriving, and Harper was a sinking ship I wouldn't board. Ellen's visit had sealed it. They'd lost me for good. I turned away, got in my truck, and drove home. The reckoning was theirs now, not mine. A year after they fired me, Harper Industries was mine, or what was left of it. The sale went through on a gray Monday, the papers signed in a lawyer's office that smelled like stale coffee. Ellen had held out as long as she could, but the debts crushed her. No one else wanted it, too much baggage, too little cash. Ascendancy Solutions bought it for a fraction of what it had been worth in George's day. Patel shook my hand after, grinning like we'd pulled off a heist. "You turned their trash into our treasure, Carter," he said. I didn't smile back. It wasn't a win, not really, just the end of a long fight I hadn't started. I kept the Harper name on a small division, a nod to George. The rest got folded into Ascendancy, new branding, New systems, my systems. We'd outgrown them months ago, snagging their old clients, building a rep that echoed louder than their legacy ever had. The severance check stopped with the sale, 5 years cut short, but I didn't care. I'd banked enough to start something fresh if I wanted, and Ascendancy was paying me more than Harper ever did. I was free of their strings, every last one. Ellen didn't show at the signing. Claire and Sophie did, faces drawn, signing where the lawyer pointed. They didn't look at me, didn't speak. I didn't push it. They'd followed Ellen off the cliff, and now they were walking away with nothing, split shares of a pittance, fractured by blame. Mike told me later they'd fought right up to the end, Claire accusing Ellen of ruining them, Sophie just done with it all. The sisters who'd sat so smug in that boardroom were strangers to each other now. I didn't feel sorry for them. Choices have costs. A week later, a letter came, Ellen's handwriting, no return address. I almost tossed it, but curiosity won. It was short, her words jagged on the page. I didn't see you, Daniel. Not like Dad did. You were right. I underestimated you. Good luck. No sorry, no softness, just an admission, bitter and late. I read it once, then lit a match and watched it burn in the sink. She didn't get a response. She'd had her say when she fired me. This was mine. The city felt different after that, like it had opened up, made room for me. Ascendancy was humming, our office buzzing with new hires, new deals. I wasn't just a partner now. I was the guy people turned to, the one who set the pace. Patel handled the big picture stuff, but the guts of it, the logistics, the deals, that was me. I'd taken what George taught me and built something better, something they couldn't touch. Every contract we signed, every client we locked down, was proof. I didn't need Harper Industries. It had needed me. One night, I stood on the balcony of my new place, a high-rise downtown, nothing fancy, just mine. Glass of whiskey in hand. I looked out at the skyline, lights flickering like they were cheering me on. I thought about George, that note he'd left me. You stayed when you could have left. He'd seen it, the strength I didn't know I had until they forced me to use it. Ellen and her sisters had pushed me out, thinking I'd fade. Instead, I'd risen, step by step, until their world was a footnote in mine. I thought about that boardroom too, the day it all started. Ellen's voice, cold and final. We're terminating your position. Claire's guilt, Sophie's silence. I'd walked out broken, but not beaten. That clause George left me, it wasn't just money, it was time, a chance to figure out who I was without them. I'd lost a wife, a family, a decade of work. But I'd found something else, myself, the man George had bet on. The one who didn't need their approval to stand tall. The whiskey burned going down, a quiet toast to the road behind me. Harper Industries was gone, swallowed by Ascendancy, by me. Ellen, Claire, and Sophie were out there somewhere, picking up their pieces. I didn't wish them harm, just distance. They'd lit the fire, and I'd walked through it, stronger for it. The city stretched out below, alive, mine to take. George was right. I was the future, just not theirs. I turned back inside, set the glass down, and shut the door. The past was done. Tomorrow was waiting. If you loved Daniel's journey from betrayal to triumph, hit that like button and subscribe for more stories of grit and comeback. Drop a comment. Would you have taken Ellen's deal or burned it all down like Daniel? Let's hear your take. New story drops soon. Don't miss it.